Welcome to Film Study Podcast with Lexi. I'm Lexi, and today I'm excited because I feel like you are, I'm like Mike and David, Hero and Strauss are very popular amongst fans, but I'd say like you're next popular amongst fans. We love interacting with you.
Popular or polarizing? Which one?
On X, formerly Twitter. No, we do really enjoy interacting with you. And you know what though, I have gotten like both opinions. Like they love you and they're just like, Adrian, why? But very cool to have Adrian Dukes on the podcast today and talk to him about his writing journey and what's it like writing on All American. So excited to have you. And again, just wanted to start off with how are you doing? How's life?
Life is great. Life is beautiful. On hiatus right now. We got news of the season 7 pickup.
Yes, congratulations.
And so yeah, thank you. So now it's just a matter of waiting to see how everything else falls in line. So I'm excited though. It's it was a fun season. It was an emotional season, and so now coming to the end of it and just kind of being able to breathe for a little bit, while at the same time, initially there was also anxiety baked into that because not knowing if we were going to have a future.
Yeah.
And so again, but getting that answer, I think we found out. Oh man, I'm forgetting the night before we wrapped. The final day of wrap. No, was it fine? But whatever it was, we found out.
Yeah.
We found out before we all wrapped, and
that's fun.
We were able to relax. It was just because mainly selfishly, as a writer, you just kind of think about yourself in your own little bubble about the next gig for me, but when you look around and with our crew. Particular, like most of them have been together for 5-6 seasons. They're from day one, but the amount of hours that they've put in together and the family type unit that they've built, so it wasn't even just a matter of that fear of finding the next job. It was that you're leaving family. And so
definitely.
So just being able to see the relief and the happiness on everyone that we're keeping the band together was pretty special.
Yeah. And that they're in jobs. It's, after coming out of the strike, it's still a very, the industry is still sort of trying to right itself. So
absolutely. Yeah.
Very important.
There's also that. Yeah. This work is not coming easy right now. There's the whole mantra of, survive till 25. That's where a lot of the industry people in this, myself, they're kind of feeling because they're like, there's been just so much contraction and so much going on that at this point you're just trying to make it to 25.
Just try to make it. Yeah. For sure. I also wanted to walk through your career before All American. I was doing some research and I'm kind of surprised about this. There's a Sunday Best credit on there. I was like, what?
There is. I did 2 or 3 seasons with that. It was an amazing gig. I've had such a fun, surprising journey with my career, and just the ability that I've had people to trust me in so many areas to come in and do work for them and to write for them.
Yeah.
And because I initially started with years ago with Rainforest Films when it was still Rob Hardy and Will Packer. And initially I wanted to come into the industry as a feature writer.
Right.
And so I was working on some things with them, and this is when I was still living in Atlanta. And so the funny thing is, there weren't, it was just 2 black camps, in Atlanta. It was Rainforest Films and Tyler Perry. And so Will and Rob, they were very, they're hustlers. I just saw Will post it the other day. He, I think, has a new book coming out where how he, when they first started their business, how he was selling newspapers door to door, whatever. I know that I think he did it too, but I know Rob for sure, like they were selling vacuums door to door. So they had that very, from the ground up hustler mentality. And so
Yeah.
that's
And
kind
they're
of
also like responsible for a lot of iconic movies.
exactly, yeah, and that's what's propelled them, and made their career so enduring in this,
Yeah.
in this industry, because that's it comes, they have that, the hustle and the love. So all that to say, and so while I was in Atlanta, different opportunities would come up, for them, and so we kind of connected, and started doing some work with them. Actually, I started off as a reader for them, and
Oh, cool.
and it just kind of, different opportunities popped up. They would give me a call like, hey, so CNN wants us to do these promos, you think you can write them? Sure. And so
Yeah.
or we have this at one point they had bought equity in Bounce. They're like, hey, we want to do a sketch comedy show on Bounce, you want to do that? Cool, why not? And so and
Yeah.
it was through that moment. So two things happened. Actually, we were booked to write promos for Are We There Yet? TBS. And Ali Leroy was the showrunner. And so I flew out to LA. I wrote those. They flew us out. And so we were produced. So while we're on set, Ali Leroy, we're just kind of talking. I'm like, yeah, I wrote these, blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, great. He's like, so where do you want to go? I'm like, well, I want to be a feature writer. He's like, TV is where the money is. It's where the money is.
That's so real.
It's where the money and the power is.
Yeah.
In film they could just take it and do whatever, but in TV that's where you have real control. And so that was the first seed kind of planted in the back of my mind. I'm like, okay. And so then when I started working on the sketch comedy show, so they had hired this guy Brian Edgerton. He was head writer at House of Pain at the time, to come over and work on this. And so we were working together. And so he and I just immediately clicked and hit it off. And he was like, so listen. So he was actually working on Ricky Smiley's show for TV One. He was like, listen, he's like, you're a funny dude. I like your writing. If I ever get an opportunity, just if I ever get a chance to get you like a freelance script, I got you. And, and he stayed true to his word. A freelance opportunity came up. And so, and I got it. So I went over to the writer's room, and there were so many talented writers in there. First time in the actual writer's room, and also first time in a comedy room. And so I'm in there, I'm sitting in the room, and they're just firing off joke pitches left and right. And I'm like, I'm never going to be able to do this. I'm like, I left out of there. I walked out of there thinking, man, I can never do this. I'm not going out to write drama or something. I got to get my life together. But what ended up happening is,
it is a very funny show too. It's like with very talented actors as well. Yes.
Yeah. So I ended up writing the episode, and I wrote it, and we had a family vacation like the same time that it was being shot. Now I easily could have said, hey, let's push the vacation back a little bit, but so I could be on set, but I wanted no parts of it. I'm like, this script is terrible. It's horrible.
Like, I don't think it's good.
Right? They're gonna laugh me out of the room, whatever. And
you're like, it's actually best if I don't.
Exactly. And mind you, this is a freelance script, and so I had seen, like, while I was in the room, I'd seen there was another freelance script that had come in that got eviscerated. Like they had to go back and re-break it from the beginning. And they're like, oh, none of this worked, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, man, I don't want to witness that. I don't want to see y'all do that to mine. I'm just going to go. And so we were on the road. So I was driving down to Florida. We were going to Destin, again, still living in Atlanta. And I got a text from my boy, Brian. And he was like, yo, we just had the table reading for your script. It killed. And so I'm like, oh, okay, nice, whatever. And so the next day, no, this is all the same day. And so I'm sitting on the beach, and then got another text a couple hours. He's like, hey, we just did a rehearsal. Everybody's asking who this writer is because his script is and so it just made me realize that, yeah, maybe I can do this, and maybe I do have it. And it also just made me realize that was the beginning of a relationship where I hate every script that I write. Just thought about that. But and my girlfriend's around the corner.
Your old worst critic.
100%. And so from there, Brian and I just, We became super tight after that, and the opportunity came up for this show for the Quad, and so Rob Hardy was producing it, and I had just randomly met Felicia Henderson like the year before at Sundance. Just again, just
Right.
kind of just hanging out, and so he's kind of like, look, you have you have the connections. Like we can get in, we can bang out a script together, submit it. We both went to HBCUs. I went to Morehouse. He went to TSU. He was like, "You work." I was still working my 9 to 5. It was like, or no, I quit my 9 to 5. It was like, you used to work at HBCU. I worked at Spelman and Clark. He's like, so
Oh, cool.
they can't. He's like, so they can't tell us no. And so we submitted the script. We got the interview, and he was right. They didn't tell us no. And so we were on staff for season 1, and that was my first drama and my first, like experience. And this time it was an LA room. So I came out here and got to kind of see the vibes and see how everything was. And and that got me on my road to drama. But I'm skipping so many things because in the midst of all of that, while I was trying to wait for more, I had smaller jobs, not smaller jobs, but I did a couple of multicam sitcoms for Bounce TV, Man and Wife, and another one they did Last Call, and then also did, started doing work in unscripted, doing 11 hip hop reunion shows, and so which was great, and so that's what got me into. That's what.
So you were actually really honing your comedy skills.
But it's such a different muscle because for the reunion shows, it's a very specific tone. And Mona Scott Young, who was the creator and showrunner of the franchise, she had a very specific style for how she wanted like the reunions to be. And then our host at the time, Nina Parker, I want to say majority of the shows I did before she left, got to work with her quite a bit. She had her tone. And then also there was like the audience and how, kind of having to know
how they would react.
How they would react, and the things that would kind of, connect with them or, resonate with them. And so, that was one of the times, I'd kind of learned different techniques for collaboration. Because again, thankfully, my first industry job, so to speak, was working with Will and Rob, and it was very collaborative. And so I came in with no, huge anything. It was like, so I came in, I got my footing
with a lot of freedom.
Yeah, but also in a very collaborative environment. And so I came in like with this understanding or rather desire to want to make sure everyone's voices were heard, everyone was represented, while at the same time making sure mine was still clear.
Yeah.
And
that's also like that's a skill. I think it's a leadership skill. I studied leadership in grad school, so it's like that's amazing that you were like so focused on that.
It is, and I want to say that's what has allowed me to have, well, outside of God, obviously, that's what has allowed me to have such a long career and allowed me to be hired in so many different ways and asked to come back in so many different ways, because I approach everything with no ego and wanted to service, my ultimate desire is to service the actual, whether it's the show, whether it's red carpet special, whether it's Sunday best, whatever, when I on the unscripted side, I did mainly host copy. And so again, with the reunion shows, it was, Nina's copy, the host copy, like coming up, this blah, 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 blah. All right. Yes. Last time, blah, all those things and same thing. Yeah. And so with her, Kurt Franklin, Nick Cannon, Ty Burrell, all these, there's a myriad, Tamar Braxton. I always brought like my scripted sensibilities to it. And so from the standpoint of whenever possible, I would try to research and look at interviews of whatever host I was looking at to kind of get the cadence of their voices, get the tone, get okay. And so I would write the copy as if I'm writing a character and writing it to their voice. And so what often happened was, and again, this is just a blessing, when I delivered a script, there were super minimal changes, if any,
Yeah,
because it was like I'm
that's
writing
huge.
to fit them. It is, and I get chills. And again, I don't say it with ego. It's
Yeah,
just
no, but it's
not. But
amazing. Like it's an amazing accomplishment.
yeah, and so that's why I'm kind of was able to write in so many different areas
Definitely.
and do so many different things, because I come in wanting to write to that voice, but at the same time, and now in the case of All American, I know the style and what my showrunner is looking for. I know what Nkechi is looking for, and there's also I know how I want to represent the room. The things
Yeah.
that we discussed, the things that were pitched in there, and then also the cast. One of my favorite things is writing for them, because giving them something that they're excited about and want to do, and then of course the audience. And it's all those things go into consideration. When I sit down to write, and I love it. It's stressful, and I always end up, like I said, hating everything that I write, but but it's generally well received.
Well, it's funny because I was gonna ask you a question about the writers' room, but because you said that, I want to ask you this other question. Your writing style, in particular, I'm saying like you're catering to, obviously like showrunner and whoever like the producers are, also
Hmm.
the cast,
Hmm.
but it always seems to bring an air of, I think, character dynamics in really, really fresh ways that we haven't seen before. Your first episode in season 4, I believe, you started the show in such a different way that we have never seen. It was the boys like hanging out, and then like JJ FaceTimes, and it was so different. And then like I'm thinking of like obviously the wedding episode, you brought in Grace's sister that we had no clue about. Like
Yeah, yeah.
all of these, I think, fresh dynamics. I think obviously this is a more serious one, but like
Mhm.
Spencer reconnecting with Dr. Spears, we hadn't seen him in a while. So
Yeah.
it's like, do you go into writing an episode with that approach, or is it just something that sort of comes naturally?
Well, I kind of come in. I come in kind of knowing that okay, with an overall all idea of what I want to do, and
Hmm.
so and
I
again,
just they're all like great intros.
right. And sometimes to the chagrin of the room, I'm like, okay, this is what I want to do, and they're like, that's never going to work. That's never going to work. Why do you
It's
want to do that?
hilarious.
And then at that point, I'm just too stupid to listen. But I
Gonna
will
write
also
it
say,
anyway.
but again, it's a super collaborative environment, and so sometimes
Hmm.
there are different pitches that'll come in, and I'm like, ooh, I like that. Oh, I like that. And so the funny thing is, I have this reputation in the room where they think that I hate every pitch, because I'll listen, and I'm just kind of like processing it, and they're like, oh, Adrian hates it. I'm like, no,
He
no, no,
doesn't
no.
like
I'm
it.
just, and the funny thing is, it all gets filed away,
Hmm.
and so the pitch that they think, or either I'm processing it, because I always have to be able to see it when I write it.
Right.
I have to
Right.
take it. So if I hear a pitch, I'm like, okay, 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 okay. How can I make that work I'm already trying to figure
Right.
out how can I make that work. I can't take anything at face value. Like, okay, yeah, we'll just do this. I'm like, no, I want to make sure I can, make
I
that
can
work.
execute it.
At least have some idea of how to get there. And so, yeah, and so I'll always have a moment, like even uh even my last episode, we were in the room, and the writer's assistant, mentioned, she's like, yeah, there's this couple, this podcast, and they have a new baby, and they talk about how raising a kid, whatever, and
Hmm.
how difficult it is, because with the baby. And I'm like, oh, cool, send me the link. And she did it, and she didn't think anything else of it. But
Yeah.
after I wrote the script, I told her, I'm like, hey, you remember that line between Asher and Jamie when they say like each week is a new baby? I'm like, that's because of that podcast. That's because of you. Like, I'm not, I don't just throw things
Yeah.
away. And
It marinates. Yeah.
it marinates, and then I pull the perfect time to find the perfect time to pull it out, like like it's a draw four. Like, bam, got it. So
That's the competitive Uno.
right, right,
It's my family.
right. Right, but I have to say though, like the room is very supportive. You know, I love working with that room. You know, a lot of talented people, a lot of great ideas, and again, you know, once I come up with something, they'll jump on board. Like again, they might think it's a little crazy, but you know, they'll jump on board and they'll start pitching it. You know, and we'll start finding things, and it's great. It's fun. But yeah, so
Yeah, that's awesome. Speaking. I love how I'm still stuck on the Uno thing because it's like Uno No Mercy is
right.
new. I don't know if you played it before, but it's
I haven't played it yet. My son is here with me for the summer, and he's been like pushing for the past couple of nights for us to play Uno. I'm like, dude, it's 12 o'clock at night. Like, come on, can we start this earlier in the day? Let's have a conversation.
And it takes a long time. It takes a long time. Okay, yeah, okay. So it's you got to dedicate some time to it. But speaking of the room, I'm wondering, because you came in again, first episode pretty sure was season 4.
Yep.
How was it integrating into a room that's already been existing for a few years versus like a series as it's created?
And again, as a credit to them, it was seamless. Mm-hmm. And Abby and I came in together. It was our first. We came in as the 2 new people for season 4, mm-hmm. And they were so warm and welcoming that we just kind of it was just like a very simple, and we've talked about that many times. It was just a very simple and smooth transition. And again, I credit that starts at the top. It starts with your leadership, how you set the tone of the room, and then also the people, you know, up under. At the time, it was Johnny Norris, Jamie, you know, but it was just a great room, and they made it easy. And, you know, coming from with my background, coming from comedy, and also and specifically having worked with Tyler Perry's former not assistant partner, Roger Bob, who still had that same Tyler Perry, you know, thing. Like you know, I had situations where I've had to write a production ready script in like 36 hours. Like in turning around. And so when you learn to write under learn how to operate under those conditions, it kind of removes a sense of fear in a certain way.
Yeah.
And particularly working in comedy, being in the room and pitching, like there's no fear. You can't have any fear. You can't be can't be afraid of, you know, is this pitch going to suck? You just have to throw it out there. And you know, if it lands, it lands. If it doesn't, you just keep moving until you come up with to the next one. And so I came in with kind of all of that kind of, you know, in place for me. So it was kind of a different sense of comfort for me.
Yeah.
But their being so welcoming really just made it easy. And just, you know, it's just kind of like, hey, just come on, just come on board and let's do this. And, you know, and it was funny because, you know, mentioned that 406, I don't know what, I don't know what NK saw in my script, but it was a big episode, and they took.
It was a huge episode. It was a huge episode.
And I felt like they were taking a chance on me in giving me for my first script, and it was, like I said, 406. It was like it felt kind of early for me, like my first script, that big of an episode, and so of course I wanted to deliver, but I don't think what they didn't realize. So one of the hallmarks on my feature writing side is multiple storylines and ticking time clocks. That was one of the things that, you know, that I one of the skills that I honed working with Will and Rob. And so like whenever, you know, so that kind of, so it felt comfortable to me, which is why I continually got big episodes.
Yeah. I was gonna say you do a lot of the group episodes for sure as well.
Thank you. So So but yeah, it was, like I said, it was a fun challenge, and just kind of being able to just kind of get in there and play like, and then on top of that, not only was it a big episode, but then it was a cabin episode. And so my first episode was a bottle episode essentially. And so I'm getting a bottle episode and a big episode, and I had a blast with it. You know, that's
a lot of changing dynamics. We're gonna revisit this when we talk about like the ships, but like it was a big episode for sure. But yeah, no, that's amazing. I do want to talk about, because I thought about this and the setup of this, and I already took some of your time asking about your first episode this season, which I was like enthralled with. I thought it was amazing. But I wanted to focus in on the most recent one that you wrote, which is the next episode,
Mhm.
611.
Yeah.
What was it like writing that episode? Because, as a fan of the show, but also a reviewer and also someone that looks at the writing, the acting, etc.,
Mhm.
it felt so much like a passion project.
It became that. It was that. So initially, you know, and I was writing this at the time where we only had 13 episodes. And so I was looking at where we were. So, when we map out the season, you kind of have,
Hmm.
what your milestone moments are. Because and
Right.
again, working for us, we have a real life person that we're basing it on, but also just a certain timeline with certain things with football. So, okay, all right, this is gonna be the championship game. This is gonna be the combine. This is gonna be the draft. This is gonna be, so you have those big things. And um, so initially I thought I was gonna get the combine episode.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and so I was kind of chomping at the bit about that one. Cause I'm like, oh, I'm gonna, like think about all the things, because again, it's with, because we've had multiple conversations prior to that. I've had them with friends or whatever, just kind of how that chattel system of the
Hmm.
combine, how you get
Yeah.
concepts. And so I'm like, oh, I'm about to, but I ended up getting 11 instead, which fell into the gap. And so I'm looking. So, okay, so we knew that we were doing the draft in a two-parter, in two episodes.
Hmm.
We knew we were
Right.
doing day one, day two of the draft. And so, again, so that just kind of left, I don't want to say a hole, but kind of a gap
Right.
with 11. And so as I was looking at it, I just kind of started thinking about, okay, this is Spencer's last day, or last moment as a kid,
Yeah.
as a college kid. That's initially where I start off, because he's about to, once you enter that, like you're an adult now. Once you enter the draft,
Yeah.
once we get to that, you're off and running.
Real life.
You're in your career. You're in real life. And
Yeah.
so I started thinking about things. Okay, well, started thinking about things. Well, what would be fun? What would be fun for him? And so we started discussing the spring break. And at one point I'm like, oh, they should go to Coachella. And we were talking about, oh, we're doing blah 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 blah, but and all these
You
things.
saying that is like, I have been saying that for the past like 4 seasons. So I'm just glad that like somewhere it was mentioned in passing.
No, because again, it was, I've been to Coachella the past couple of years. Pacing
Yeah.
goes all the time, so it's like it's a thing. Like
Yeah.
it's we love it. And so, but then you have to start thinking about the realities of the budget, of what
Right.
those budget,
Budget,
yeah,
logistics, yeah.
exactly. Coming all for the 100th episode, like, okay, how much money do we have left?
Right.
And so you start thinking about that. Okay, so and again, that's when the producing part comes into the creative, because I want to do something big and fun for spring break, but am I gonna really be able to give it what it needs? Because again,
Right.
knowing what's coming down the line, knowing that, okay, that we still have a draft and we still have a Jordayla wedding, like, okay, all
Right,
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 so
right.
I can't go crazy. And so I started thinking about different ways to, I'm always been a fan of what the plan starts out this way, but then it turns
It
out to be
gets
something
twisted,
else.
yeah.
And so we started thinking about ways. Okay, all right, what's spring break interrupted? What does that look like?
Yeah.
Whatever. And so I left the room that evening, and then I don't know what it was. I was just sitting, and I was just thinking, and I'm like, this. I was just kind of reflecting, like, this could be the last season,
Hmm.
and at
Yeah.
that point, I knew, we knew for the most part there was a strong chance that Daniel was going to be gone. So we knew that
Right.
whatever show comes back, if the show comes back, whatever it comes back, it won't be this dynamic. It's not going to be
Yeah.
the same dynamic. And so
Exactly.
for the most part, this version of All American is over.
Hmm.
And so as I was just sitting and thinking about that, I don't know. I just started thinking about, uh, day one, well, I'll say day two of when I got into the writer's room, season 4. One of the first things that I heard was about how NK had always wanted to do Shakespeare,
Yeah.
Shakespeare Crenshaw, how she always wanted to bring that there. And,
Hmm.
and we would joke about it and like, oh, I can never be done, because at that point, um, and so by the time, and so we couldn't figure out, couldn't figure out how to get it in at that point of the season. And then we did the time jump in college. So it felt like, oh, that's never going to happen. And
Yeah.
so, so as I was just kind of just reflecting on, okay, oh yeah, I was in my office or what 411 could be. I started thinking like, this could be her last chance to get her,
Yeah.
you
Exactly.
know,
Yeah.
she's given so much to us. She's given so much to the fans. I'm like, so, why not, do something to facilitate her dream, something that
Hmm.
she's been wanting to do.
Yeah.
And then, and I found out that Daniel had also been wanting to do it. And then,
Yeah.
so I walked into her office. It was, after the room had shut down, it closed, ended for the day. I'm like, so listen, because typically when I come up with a storyline, whatever, I like to run it by her just to kind of get a feel for, okay, what are you thinking? Because
Right.
she's not, she's typically not. She'll come into the room later, but just kind of so make sure that as we're going, I'm headed in the right direction,
Yeah.
whatever.
I get you.
And so I'm like, so listen, um, there are two things that we're thinking. Like one of them we discussed in the room, and this other one we haven't. And I'm like, so I'm thinking about doing Shakespeare. She's like, yes, I want to do this. We're doing it. We're doing it. I'm like, wait, I haven't given you the other pitch yet. I'm like, the other one, maybe I should have led with the spring bake. And so she got super excited about it. And then when I went back into the room and told them the next day, they're like, oh God, like, dude, like, why, why? And so it was, so yeah, it did become a passion
And then it
project.
became that was Spencer and the rest of the group.
Right, right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. But it became a passion project because, I wanted to do something special for the person who had hired me and giving me this chance to come on and
Yeah.
have this amazing experience. And at the same time, something special for our lead actor who, this guy, he works so hard, works his ass off, and is super talented.
Right.
And they're both,
So
the same
talented.
way. Yes. And again, this isn't to take anything away from any of the other cast as well.
Right.
They're all great as well. But the load that he carries as the lead, and then also as a
Definitely.
director, there too,
Yeah. Yeah.
it just hits different and it's
It is.
admirable. And so it's kind of like, I want to give that gift to these two.
Yeah.
And so it started from there. And then of course, as different things were kind of happening, as it was going along, like, okay, trying to figure out, okay, like it was a ton of work. It was there are a couple of times when I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have, maybe should have stuck with spring break. But trying to figure out, because I, obviously had to do a deep dive on Shakespeare, because initially it was like,
Yeah.
all right, figuring out, okay, which play is it going to be, kind of,
Yeah.
different hodgepodge of different plays. And he had done Twelfth Night, and actually that's what Daniel did. And he had won an award for that with the British Theater, no, the Royal Theater Group. I'm butchering it, but yeah, but he
I feel like Albert would be somewhere in that name, like Royal Albert.
right, exactly. But and so I'm like, all right, so do I go back to Twelfth Night? And then I don't know, Romeo and Juliet just kind of made sense, because I knew that I wanted to do it for with I knew I wanted to do it with Amina and Bryce for Preach to
Hmm.
have that moment, but I also knew that I wanted to have that moment with Jordan and Layla, because I kind of
Right.
wanted each couple. I wanted everything to kind of have a Shakespeare vibe to it, not necessarily be overtly
Yeah.
Shakespearean, but just to kind of have that, whether it's, two ships, passing each other, or just narrowly missing each
Yeah,
other tonight, or a misunderstanding that turned into a big thing that could have just been
definitely.
solved with an easy conversation, in the
Exactly.
beginning.
It's like the essence of these things. Yeah.
Exactly. All of those things. And I landed on, just like, what, just do Shakespeare for the whole I mean, Romeo and Juliet for the whole thing. And it just was just off and running from there. And yeah, and it just became, it was a passionate one, but it was also a lot of work. It was
Yeah.
probably one of the most challenging ones that I've written, up there with Spencer's Grief episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Which was also an amazing one. Which was also
Thank
an
you.
amazing one.
Thank you.
Um, this one also I feel like had new dynamics, and it was fun for me because we saw Spencer and Olivia in the more sort of like romantic comedy dynamic, which I feel like we always get with Jordan and Layla. And so it was just fun to see them having so much fun in the background as they're trying to help them get to this point of like setting the wedding date and everything like that. So it was really that was really fun. So I saw the hard work because okay, your thing is new dynamics. I don't from what
It
I
is. It
see.
is. It is new dynamics, and but with that though, funny thing is, Carrie said it with the on her interview with you, which was great, by the way, and I felt
Thank
the
you.
same way. So for me, um, and I've always kind of seen, like, if I had to do like superlatives for like the couples as I
Hmm.
was shooting the episode, just watching all the dynamics now.
Yeah.
Jordayla, they're definitely my favorite rom com couple.
Hmm.
I would give Patience and Coop most ride or die couple. 'Cause
Definitely.
they've been tossing guns and rivers
I
and
know.
ready to go,
As much as
whatever.
I've told you this before, I've mentioned this to you before, but I'm like, as much as I'm anti,
Right, right. But
they
listen,
keep
listen.
finding a
They just got that ride or die. They ain't going nowhere type love.
way. We
Uh,
not leaving yet.
right, right. Asher and Jamie are the cutest couple, like,
Yeah,
because they're just so bubbly and just so, like, when you watch it,
definitely.
like when you watch, you're just shooting the scenes and you're like, oh, y'all so cute. You just kind of like, just it just they just give you that vibe. And Spencer and Liv are like the old school love.
Definitely.
They're the been here before, couple. And so with this episode, I wanted to kind of show them in that light. Not only that though, um, someone I wanted to have an episode where they didn't have any stakes. There was nothing, there was no
Yeah.
drama, there was no stress for
Yeah.
them. They're in a great place. And so we kind
Exactly.
of get to sit back and help
Yeah.
everybody else out with their stuff. And so they get to kind of enjoy this moment. Spencer gets to enjoy this moment as like being able to come back to South Crenshaw and do this thing that he always wanted to do. He and Daniel always wanted to
Right.
do, and just kind of play things out. Jordan and Layla got to have their rom-com moment and reconnect in such a beautiful way. Hats off to to our crew with the light. Oh man, it was so great. But
Yeah.
just it was just so, there were so many things about that episode that were intentional,
Hmm.
and just kind of had a special type of meaning, because again, knowing that this could be my last
Yeah.
ever, there was a lot of sentimentality behind it, and also at the same time, knowing that some things were going to be ending for some of the cast, and
Yeah.
yeah, just really wanted to honor that in a very special way, well, in
For
my way.
sure, for sure. And it's so funny because you mentioned the lights, and I keep thinking about that one. If you could just like the single frame, and it's Daniel, obviously as Spencer on stage, and it's
Yeah,
like the spotlight, and you can
yeah,
see the spotlight. That was an amazing
yeah,
shot.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Shout out to Sharissa and my our DP Eddie. They came in, and and just killed it. Like we shot that with Steadicam and just how they were
Mhm.
just moving around. Like just even from the rehearsals, it was just kind of
Yeah.
like yeah. Sharissa is great. She's great. So
Yeah. For sure, for sure. Now we've like touched on them. We touched on them, but this is the obligatory ships question.
okay, all right, all right.
I would be like in the comments, why didn't you talk about? So I wanted to say this again. We like briefly mentioned it up at the
Mhm,
top, but like
mhm.
you've written a lot of meaningful periods in couples relationships. Your very first episode, it was Spencer and Liv,
Yeah,
sleeping together for the first time after they
yeah.
decided to wait.
Mhm,
I'm thinking season 5, Jordan and Layla are becoming official.
mhm.
So many things. Your first cabin episode, it was like really the tension and the cracks between like
Mhm.
Patience and Coop. And so
Yeah.
you've really done like a lot of these, really, I'd say, like meaningful periods in time for relationships.
Mhm.
And so what's the best part about writing for those relationships? So we can go like one by one. We'll start with Patience and Coop because I know that you love them. I want to hear your perspective on
With Patience and Coop, um, like again, they both have like this certain level of groundedness that they
them.
come from. I mean, and also being a same sex couple, you just kind of
Yeah,
know there's already so many obstacles, like things that we
definitely.
didn't see that they had to fight to able to get to a place where they're able to. And we saw, a bit, well, we saw that with Coop early on, but being able
Yeah,
to kind of be confident in who she is and love the person that she's chosen to be with.
definitely. Yeah.
And so that kind of always sits in the background of that. And and again, I don't try to take up the mantle of trying to write same sex couple like any special.
Right, right,
I've read
right.
it's a love, but again,
Yeah, exactly.
but just knowing that it's love
But
that
knowing
a
that
little
extra layer,
more battle. Yeah,
especially for black couples, right? Like
exactly.
black
Yeah.
queer love. Yeah.
Yeah. And so knowing that it's been battle tested in ways that these other couples haven't, and it's kind
Hmm.
of coming with that with that respect. All right, so who's next? Wait, did I answer the question?
Yes, it did. It did. Best part about writing them. I'll
Okay.
go to Jordan and Layla next.
It's the fun, like it's that again, it's that rom-com.
Hmm.
It's just that rom-com energy, that playfulness between the two of them and just kind of knowing cuz they are great with each other. They have great chemistry and you just kind of know that you can kind of give them certain things and they're going to be awesome with it. Yeah, so that's my favorite part, and and I had such a blast last season writing when they were trying to keep the trying to keep it a
That was
secret,
an excellent
and
episode. It's
JJ was
hilarious.
kind
Yeah.
of just right on the trail, but just a half a step behind,
Exactly.
know. Uh, and
That
so
was crazy.
yeah, it was fun writing that, but just again. Because again, just this is kind of the conversation we had. Again, none of this has been things that's been established in the show,
Hmm.
but when you think about how these two grew up together and just kind of
Yeah.
how they know each other best out of all
Yeah.
the couples, have known each
Yeah.
other longest, whatever, and just now to be able to carry that long-standing friendship into a relationship is,
Definitely.
yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so nice. That's so sweet. And then Spencer and Olivia.
Spencer and Olivia. My favorite part about writing them is, there are, particularly now, like being in the relationship that I'm in, like just being so deeply in love and just full of love and just being able to channel that through
Yeah.
them, and
Yeah.
even, uh, even like I said, their love is so mature
Yeah.
and it's just so old school and just being able to write to that and to write to their intimacy
Hmm.
and their safety in each other, their
Yeah.
safety in knowing, okay, this is my person, And so,
Yeah.
so I get to just breathe with you. Like, I don't have to give a full recount of what I did today. I can just lean on you and just breathe. Like, that is just so beautiful to me. Like,
It is.
I love that. And the way that they execute it is just, it's just next level. Like, they know how to get into those soft spaces with each other, and that just translates on screen. It translates while we're shooting it.
Yeah, exactly.
What was it, 604 my episode this season, or 603? 603, yes.
Right.
Whichever one it was. But I'm terrible with numbers. You're great with that, by the way. And everybody else in the room. Whichever episode, my first episode of
I want to say it was 603. I want to say you're right.
Yeah, it was 3, because Dodie and I alternate, and so sometimes I can't remember. So we're typically like, one of you guys is going to get this, and so by the time I get in my head what number it's going to be, it gets flipped. So, but there was just a moment where it was the end of their day, and they're sitting on the back porch on the swing, and just like, just kind of having that, you're my person, like, are we good for each other? And just kind of like, and these are the conversations my girlfriend and I have, like,
Right.
we acknowledge those things that we love about our relationship, like how we just get to be comfortable with each other, how we support each other, how we, how we want to push each other for the best. And so just sitting there watching them like execute that, and in just such a sweet way, like, I had to send her a text like, I love you. Like, it's just,
well, and it's, what, that was I remember watching that episode and that scene in particular, and loving that, Liv could ask that question, like when she was talking about Grace. She was talking to Grace, I think, which is what spurred the question. But she could just ask that question, and it wasn't like, there was no concern of like, oh, what are you worried? Right. Like, what's going on? But it was so peaceful. Right. And I think that they've needed, and what I've really appreciated about watching their relationship this season is that they've grown to a point to get to this point where they're at, where it's just like completely calm.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. They deserve.
So it was fun to see.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love obviously I love the relationships, but I also love like the journey to get to it and the points to get to it.
Yeah.
It's cool to hear.
And that's an important part, because again, I know the frustration for fans is, well, we want to see them happy all the time, but you got to work through those things. Like, I don't want to say you have to earn it, but again, when you go through those rough times, it bonds you in a way, definitely, to where when you locked it, like, that's it, and that's when you really get to enjoy just the beauty of it all.
Exactly.
But it has to get tested. Unfortunately, it has to be battle tested.
Yeah, you have to know. Again, getting back to the season's point of this and the period's point of this, you have to know people in different periods of times, and different seasons of times, to see, because when we end up going through the season together, we're gonna like grow through it together. So
yeah, especially this young. Again, keep in mind,
they're very young. All of them.
Right? Yeah, and so we've matured them. They have a very mature love. They have a very locked in, and so when you're talking about, this is the person that you're about to be spending the rest of your life with, you're basically a high school / college sweetheart. Like, no, you gotta
go through some things. You gotta go through some things.
Yeah, but I will say, we never put them through those things for the sake of just seeing them suffer. It was for the sake of growth, and for the sake of seeing them rise above, each time rise above and see that love deepen. One of the things that I've always appreciated about this show, even before I was hired on, was I love how aspirational it is in certain regards, how aspirational it is in the relationship, as far as like, again, like Liv and Spencer are like the prototypical relationship. Like, I would have loved to be able to communicate like that when I was in college with my college girlfriend. Well, with my college girlfriend, now ex-wife. Had I had those communication tools that they have, then
Mm-hmm.
who knows? But it's it's different, and those are things that I learned later in life. But now I get to experience with with the now love of my life,
Yeah,
with my person now.
exactly.
But again, it's very aspirational. Even Spencer, who he is as a character, and his ability to tap into his emotions and his feelings and express those things
Yeah,
is aspirational. And again, it's intentional because um and I took that mantle on because again, I want to me personally, I want to show young men, black men,
yeah,
particularly young black men, that that you don't have to keep it bottled up. That you can communicate your
exactly.
feelings. You can
Yeah,
communicate with your partner. You can communicate with your boy. It's okay. You can have those intimate relationships. You know, with your friends. You don't have to think about oh, you don't have to say pause every 3 seconds.
right, exactly.
You
Yeah.
can express how you're feeling. You can go to therapy. You can get
You
these
can
breaks.
go to therapy.
You can
That
beat
that grief
yourself up,
episode was so necessary. It was so necessary.
that was one of the most um important things I've written,
Yeah.
say. And the challenge with that was, I'd been dealing with grief. My mom passed in 2014, and
Hmm.
I locked that grief away and had been,
Yeah.
just had not been dealing with it. And so when I got the assignment, when I was told, hey, listen, you're going to be doing Spencer's grief episode, I'm like, okay, well, I can't do it if I'm not doing the work. I can't really get into
Yeah.
it. So I had to go on the journey. I had to go back, to my old house in Atlanta and pull out pictures. Like it was difficult for me to look at pictures of my mom. And so
Yeah.
I had to go back, and for the first time, I'm like sorting through. Like I had to, start with me first before I could
Yeah.
start writing for.
No, that's so true. That's so true. Like grief is such it's the I think most complete phrase that I've experienced in my life with grief and that I just think holds true no matter who you are is that even if people, have a relationship with one person, like each person's unique with that person that
Yes.
passed away
Yep.
is unique. It's different. Like
Yep.
nobody will exactly understand what anybody else is going through
Yeah.
because you had that relationship with that person.
Yeah.
And so it's when we acknowledge that, then when we can get to a place where, you know, we can really process it. And then in you sharing the story and like writing this episode that it's like it's able to be universal because of how specific it is.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's what I was kind of going for because again, there are other writers in the room who've lost. Listen, that grief run was one of the toughest. I want to say maybe 4 or 5 months because we were just from the moment of Billy's death, the room we were just dealing constantly with grief. Those, all of those episodes, all of those time, that just kind of sitting with it day after day after day after day. And so that was also one of the heaviest moments in my life, but it was
Yeah.
cathartic. It was
Yeah.
cathartic for us all because half of us in that room had lost parents, whether it was a mom, a dad, some cases both. And so to just kind of sit through and process that and bring all that to the page and bring all that, again, where I got to do it, bring all of that through Spencer James and everything else that he had to unpack in the process, were things that I had to unpack, in previous therapy that weren't connected to my grief, but just kind of show how how all those things kind of collide and just kind of sets you down this dark hole.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. That's again so necessary and so important. It was a really, really great,
Yeah,
great
and just real quick,
episode.
and I just want to shout out Jamie Turner on that because I knew coming in with that one, I knew that I wanted to bring Dr. Spears back, and I knew that I wanted to be a
Hmm.
series. I knew I didn't want it to be just one moment, one session where we figured it out. It's
Right.
you know,
That walk through the
listen,
park,
listen,
that sticks in my mind. That is like
that's
the
that's a
picture of the episode for me.
Jamie pitched that, and and I I love him to his day for that, like because that again, certain times you have certain pitches that just kind of break it all open, just bust it
Yeah,
wide open for you.
yeah.
And when he pitched that, he was like, "Oh, you can take it to the park. You can do the park." I'm like, "Bruh, that just took it to the next level." Again,
I
that's another
love that.
benefits of being in a great room. It just took it
Yeah.
next level and just kind of be able and to see them on the move and just kind of see Spencer not be able to wanting to escape, but Dr.
Hmm.
Spears like saying like, nah, bro, we're gonna keep digging. We're gonna get this, and just
Yeah.
having him going back and connecting all of these different moments. I can remember. I write a lot in Starbucks, and I can remember like exact moments of where
Starbucks is your place. That's good to know.
it is. It is.
I'm
It's like I am not a. I can't write at home because I get distracted too easily. Like I'll get up to go to the bathroom, and on my way to the bathroom, I'll see that a light bulb is out, and so then I have to change that bulb. And then I'm like, oh, let
yeah.
me check all the other ones. And then by the time I check all the other ones, like, oh, there's some laundry that needs to be folded. And so like, I
Yeah.
always
You're like, wait, I was supposed to be writing.
yeah. But coffee shops, I can go in and I can just sit down and just block out all the. And actually, I kind of feed off the energy of all the people around, whatever, and just kind of lock in
Definitely.
and just start to see it and go. But yeah,
Definitely.
but I can remember specific moments because again there are just so many things that you have to uncover the stories behind the story as you peeling back all these different layers.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so
Awesome.
yeah.
This would I think you thought the first question was a surprise question. This is the
Oh, that
one that we're
wasn't
ending on is the surprise question.
okay.
This is thinking about we were gonna have this last week. What'd
uh,
you think about the Kendrick Juneteenth show, the concert?
I was on the fence about going, and I've been regretting that I didn't go. So I have my 11-year-old son out here with me, and I'm like, am I reckless if I take him to a Kendrick Lamar pop out on Juneteenth? Am I? And so we just stayed at home and watched it because he's just getting into Kendrick, and
Yeah,
but I loved it. I thought it was beautiful. I
it
thought it
was.
was next level petty,
It
but
was.
at the
But
same
also I
time,
feel like experiencing it at home too was cool. Like I went back home to Baltimore
uh,
that week. And so I wasn't here and I couldn't go, but it was so funny to see because everybody's like doing that one part of the concert. It was like the wop
yeah.
wop wop wop, and the
Right, right,
camera
right, right, right,
switching.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a moment. It ranks up there. So when Beyonce did Coachella, uh,
Mm,
so I was out here. I was working on a show for BT Man Cave, and my showrunners on that they do Coachella every year, and so they're like, "Yo, we got tickets. You gonna." And I was just wrapping up, and they're like, "Yo, you should come Coachella with us." Blah blah blah. I'm like, "Nah, I'm gonna go home see my babies. I haven't seen
right,
my
right,
kids.
right.
In months. I'm gonna go home. Whatever." And so I flew back to Atlanta, and so I was still kind of on LA time, and so I was kind of just up working, and I just put the I just put the feed on, and it was streaming at Post Malone, and my daughter woke up, and I hey, Beyonce's about to come on soon. You want to watch? And so she came down, and
Yeah,
she and I watched it together. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning Easter time. Like watched it together, and it was just such a great experience. It was like
definitely.
it was just an amazing like father daughter bonding moment, and that just kind of unfortunately opened the door for her. She's the reason why I've gone to the last couple of Coachellas because she's like, oh, we gotta go. I'm like, dude, like so.
But also for that being a first, that's such a cool first experience, especially so like that's a very heavy like women empowerment show. I remember
It,
watching
it
that
is, it is, and the funny,
Homecoming, and yeah.
yeah, and the funny thing about it is, she's like, as a kid, she's like, do you realize that you've made me, because she is super feminist, woman
Hmm.
empowered. She's like, you do know that you contributed to this, right? That
It's
you
your
made me who I am. She's like,
as you should.
she's like, you just realize that and I do, and I love that. I love that
Yeah.
she's empowered the way that she is, because again, there's just my appreciation for, because I was raised with a single mother, and so my appreciation again specifically for Black women, and just the idea of like, you guys are amazing and can be all the things, and you are all the things, and
Right.
always wanted to reflect that in my writing, always wanting to express that, or in my support or whatever. So just the fact, it made me so happy. It made me smile inside, just kind of like knowing that, that she acknowledges that I played a role. I never did it like with the intention of one day you're going to be blah, 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 blah.
Right.
It's just like, I want her to feel like she's the most special thing and that she can do anything, and just the fact that she walked away, that she is like, hey, I do feel that way.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you said the pop-up was great. It was. I was just saying thanks for taking the time.
I missed it, but I will not make that mistake again. Because another funny story. So I had tickets to the last tour for Kendrick, and Alexis and I were going to go, and which episode was it? And then my episode was, and this is when COVID was still kind of running crazy, and so not crazy. And so, I was going in production. I'm like, babe, we got to sell the tickets. Like, we can't go. And so, we ended up missing that tour. So
yeah, man.
Hopefully I can catch them again.
I know. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. No, again, thank you so much for taking the time. It was so great talking to you.
Lexi, thank you. Like, I really appreciate, and honestly, I appreciate all of the fans. I know I give some of them a hard time, but get on some of their nerves. But I really appreciate all the fans. I appreciate you. Like, again, I do have to kind of remind myself, because I came into All American as a fan. I came into the job as a fan. And so, there are moments, that engagement with you guys on Twitter is not just me always just coming in. Like, I'm a fan too. But again, I get to be a fan with inside information. But
the best type of fan to be. But
I really appreciate you particularly, again, and just this platform that you have, and reviewing the reviewing the episodes, and also having writers and producers on to talk about it, and just like your love and affinity for it. Like, again, it means a lot. It doesn't go unnoticed. And I just want to say this one more thing, because again, just kind of going back to how I always like to show my appreciation in different kind of ways or whatever. So in my last episode in 611, while I was writing that, I don't know why I was on Twitter, but someone had posted, it was a Jordayla fan. They had posted it there, like, oh, all of Jordayla's greatest moments happened. The writers put all their greatest moments by the fire. And I'm like, no, that's not intentional.
It just happens.
It just happens. But because of that, I'm like, I'm gonna put this moment where they put it by the fire, like just as a shout out to her, whoever that was. Like, so people, it's so like, and so I think someone was looking at the script, like as we were doing the blocking, because again with that back porch with whatever, they're like, well, should we put it over here? Should we put it? I'm like, no, it has to be by the fire. Fire pit, as it is written, it has to be by the fire pit, because I need this slight little wink,
Easter eggs.
Even the stuff with Layla's reaction to like, if you say cabin, I promise you I'm going to kill you, because
exactly.
I know the fans are tired of the cabin episodes. I know that
I personally love them.
Well, but writers and the crew, like, it's a difficult space to write to.
Yeah, to write. Yeah,
it's limited, and you can't, and try and figure out, okay, well, what's a part of the woods that we haven't seen? And that cabin is much smaller than you realize. Fortunately,
Yeah,
with the right directors and whatever, we're able to make it look bigger than what it is. And it's just such
exactly.
a headache, and it's kind of out. It's not out far; it's still on the lot, but it's just
But
such
it's
a
on that
headache.
back lot, yeah.
It's on that back lot, and so that sentiment was for everyone who's tired of being at the cabin. So.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. No, shout out to the directors. Because they do like a lot, like a lot. No, but I appreciate your words because again, first of all, yes, love this show and was able to watch it with my family for a really long time. Like it was something that my mom and my aunts and
Oh,
I could
nice.
talk about.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of fans in my household. But so it's really, really meaningful because I think All American is one of the reasons I started to like explore writing and things like
Oh,
that.
wow.
So
Nice. Okay. Yeah.
love getting to highlight the writers because your hard work doesn't go unnoticed. And it's always interesting because I'm just like, listen, I've unrelated. I've done a short film and I'm like, I experienced this like stress just with one little short film, and I can't imagine like what it's like to do a
Oh,
whole entire network show.
yeah.
It's so yeah,
Yeah. There are so many layers. There's so many times where I'll see a tweet from a fan, and I'm like, oh, bless your
you
heart.
don't know, you
No
don't
idea.
even know.
You have no idea. Like, yeah, that line that you hate that doesn't make sense. The network wanted that line, so we had to put that in,
Exactly,
or whatever.
exactly.
Like there's just so many, or that thing that didn't happen where you thought it should. Yeah, we didn't have the money for that, or the
Exactly.
time you didn't see the actor. Yep, they were shooting something else. They were, there are just so many
So many
variables,
moving parts.
so many moving parts. Even
And you all care about the characters. I think sometimes
that's
that's
the
a
thing.
misconception too,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that it's
Oh,
again like you were saying, like you all don't want the characters to suffer. But
right.
as a writer, you're thinking like, how could I take this person through something, and like
Particularly as
what is
drama.
their reaction?
Yeah,
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 what is their
exactly.
reaction to this going to
Yes,
be, and how can we make them
yeah,
grow? So
yeah.
it's always really cool to hear that.
And it's not just that you want to service the characters, and like I said, but you also care about the actors. You also want to give them
Yeah,
something good. So, like,
something good.
there
Yeah.
is a lot of care. And I'll say this last thing, because the funny thing is, like, I don't know how NK's gotten the reputation that she hates Spelivia, but
I don't either.
but I learned how to write, like when I did my first script again. I don't want to say maybe a vanilla version of that. Again, I kind of understood it, but
Yeah.
once she gave me a note on writing them, and I realized, okay, I have to take extra care, put extra love in with,
Yeah.
because she cares. She
Yeah.
wants love. And again, and she understands that is, that is the heartbeat of this show. And
Definitely.
so there is a lot of care that goes behind all of these characters, even the annoying ones. And we do have our annoying ones in the room where we're like, I don't want to write this one. But no, but it's and again, it's not the cast. It's just because certain characters have to be written in a sense, because again, they have to like
Who is it and why is it Coop? I'm kidding. That's just my
well,
opinion.
I was gonna say poor Alicia, like when I had to bring,
That's
bring her
true.
in, bringing her in at the end of 5:15 in that moment, like,
Oh my goodness.
I'm like, I really don't want to do this, but it has to be done. Like, sorry,
I was just
it has to
like,
be done.
Liv, why did you go to this girl?
Yeah, but again, that was a real life experience.
Yeah.
Someone in the room broke up with their boyfriend, and the boyfriend was dating, and so she was trying to be the good, friend now, and
Yeah.
try to help repair that relationship. And the
Yeah.
the boyfriend's like, dude, I want to be with you. What are you trying to fix? So it
Exactly.
happens. You kind of get in these spaces where you overdo it, where you try to overcompensating. Like, I'm in a healthy place. You know, I see you as my friend. I'm going to help you with, like, no, sit your ass down somewhere. Let
Exactly.
just no. But again, lesson learned for Liv. And
Yeah. Yeah. For
yeah,
sure. Making me think too, just again about like, because again, you've had some heavy episodes, but it's like Layla's mental health too, and like people like being really upset because they were like, why can't she just tell him?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
crazy.
Again, that's tough, and there are a lot of, no, it's a lot, but we have a fair amount of writers. Well, let me not say it. All of us deal with some version of mental
Yeah,
health issues,
definitely.
but just the extent and the treatment of the thing, whatever. But you know, again, that's something that we care about as well. But also in the conversations with the people in the room who deal with it on the level that Layla does, those are very real moments. No, you
Yeah,
don't feel like you can just tell them. You don't feel like you can just, you know, because it always feels like it's one more thing. Like,
exactly.
like I'm already going through this. Now I have to put this on you too. And I have to tell you this on you too. Like, you're already dealing with this other thing that I did or that I, you
Yeah,
know. And so, but yeah, there is tremendous amount of care and love for all of these characters. I
all of
can
them, all of them.
promise you
Even
that.
Coop. I'm
Even Coop, even Coop, who has, you have to admit, had one of the greatest arcs on this show
yes,
between her and
I do think that she's had an amazing arc.
between her and Preach, like just where they started versus where you know, where they come. And the funny thing about Preach, Johnny again wrote that character. Both he and Denise were supposed to kind of be one-off characters that Johnny
Hmm.
both created, but I want to say that Preach was supposed to die maybe at one point.
Really?
And in that first season, and Johnny came, but once Kareem came and did just such an amazing, like, no, we can't let this dude
She's just
go.
like, we can't let him go.
We can't, you know. And the funny thing is, his name was Preach because he, you know, he didn't talk a lot, but when he did, when he said something, it was impactful. And now we
Yeah,
got him teaching Shakespeare, like it's just
exactly.
great.
That is
Like
true.
being a father, a single
He's
father,
a
like
whole entire educator. He's a
it's
whole
beautiful.
entire educator.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
beautiful again because again that aspirational thing of you can have this
Yeah.
black man who was caught up in the system, who was 2-3 strikes in, and now
Yeah.
completely turned his life around and is, you know, giving back to his community in such a beautiful way. And just yeah, I love that.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. It's always fun to see actors who really make their imprint. And I'll I'll add Alexis into that because I love Denise. I don't think there's a single fan that does not like Denise. And it's because so fresh, so hilarious every single time. And she just
He's great, and
has
I
this
love
way of interacting with all of the characters where they're like, oh, what?
yeah, I love writing for her. I love working with her. Like, we met on my first episode, and that's
Oh
where we
wow. Yeah.
started. Yeah, that's where things started. Well, not started with us because we were kind of friends for a little bit, but it's kind of just
Hmm.
grew from there. But writing with her is amazing. Writing for
Yeah.
her because that allows me because now I can really lean into like my comedy chops when I'm writing her.
Yeah.
I can really, you know, I can kind of do a little bit here and there with the other cast, but Denise, you know, that's her character. You know, that's
Yeah.
who she is. She brings the funny, whatever. And so I really get to lean into it. And so the competition is for me to write a line that is so good that she can't uh that she can't beat it with an ad lib.
Oh.
And so I try to write it in a way where I'm already thinking ahead. Okay, how would she, you know,
That's
how would she ad
amazing.
lib? How would she beat this? How would she ad lib that? And then, damn it, she'll still come in like
She'll
with
still come in.
something else and still. I'm like, oh, why did I think of that? It was still beat it.
For me, I keep going back to this scene, and it was the wedding episode in season 5, where it's like this gorgeous moment. Like Grace's sister has just like reconnected, and it was in the middle of the speeches, and she goes, "So anyway, back to my speech."
That was all her. That was all her. that was
I
That was
love
all
it.
her. Yeah, I had written the whole thing, fighting over the mic, and then her getting it over. But yeah, that was again, and where what makes her so special is when she she never tries to outdo the writing. She never tries to outdo her
Right.
her castmates, her scene mates. It's something. It's always something to elevate it, but in a way to where she's not trying to become the
Yeah.
focus. But
Yeah. It's in
and it's
service of the
always
story.
it's all exact in service of the story and in service of the character. It's always in
Yeah.
the pocket of what the character would, what you would think Denise would do, and
Do.
not in
Yeah.
a big way where you're like, oh, okay, now she's just
Yeah.
trying to, she's just doing too much now.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I appreciate that. We have a lot of giving, and so you can always see how the other actors interact with that, because they're like, oh, okay,
Definitely.
because when you have an actor that's giving in that way, and like, okay, and that you can kind of play along with, I'll remember. I know I'm taking up all your time, but
No, you're fine.
Daniel is another one who's the same way, and it's great when when they show up to work.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they show up to play, but I'm saying, like, there was
When they're locked in a zone.
when they're locked in. There was one scene in one of Jamie's episodes in season 5. I wasn't there on set. I usually try to jump down because I'm nosy, like, and I love being on set. Like, I'll try to jump down for
I was like, you good? Just like, yeah, I just wanted to hang out. No, I'm nosy.
it's all of that. I just love the vibe of being on set. Like, I'll just pop in, like, hey, whatever. Like, I was on set for the finale. Well, because Alexis was there, but I was just on set for that, and then ended up covering the last couple of nights. But in this moment, it was a scene that between Jordan and Spencer. And so the story is, Daniel comes over to Jamie. He was like, yo, he's like, Mike is in his bag today. He's like, I'm about to push him. And I'm really about to know, we about to go there. And so because Mike showed up, and Mike has been, like, just from season 4, the growth that I've seen, like, that dude has been killing. Like, if you, I don't want to, diminish what he was doing and say, like, most improved, but, like, his growth has been crazy.
It has.
But anyway, and so it was a scene where they were arguing, and so Daniel knew, okay, I could take it there. I can take it, and Mike got up to that level, and then when you watch the scene, it's like, these dudes were really cooking today. They were really, us again, and it's the same thing with 515 with Eugene and play Dr. Spears and Spencer, because they realize, okay, all right, we're both here and we're both ready to work, and so we can push. We can do, and so that put Daniel in beast mode, and with that episode, it was eesh. But so it's always great to watch our cast work and see them play off of each other and see those moments where they are in a certain groove or whatever, and just see how it kind of elevates the scene, because no one wants to get left behind, no one wants to lag, and so see how it just raises the level just across the board.
Talented cast.
Yeah, they're great. They're all super great. I love them all. I really, really
me too.
and they're just a joy. Like, I look forward to writing for them. Like, I enjoy writing for them. Like, I enjoy, like, sitting and thinking, oh yeah, Breezy's gonna love this line, or Dave's gonna love it. Like,
Breezy is hilarious. Breezy, I've been ragging on Coop a little bit in this podcast, but I rag on her so much because she's such a real character to me, and like. It's just she just has, just like in the show, she has a way of getting under people's skin. And also I just love her as in a lot of ways, like the voice of reason, especially for Spencer.
Yes,
just like her in that Spencer's best friend role. So I love it.
Yeah, me too. And I love how how fearless she is in that role. How she doesn't hold punches. Like, again, one of my favorite scenes from 603 was when Spencer was complaining about how hard it was, how he was having such a hard time, and she's like, bruh, you done forgot where you came, you forgot who you are, like, you talking about it's too hard, like, and that's a real thing. Like, I kind of wanted to hang a lantern, because Spencer's been having a nice little life out in Beverly Hills now, and so
Definitely.
that can soften you. It was no critique about who he is, but like, don't forget, dude, you came
Yeah,
up from the struggle. You know how to deal with hardship. You know how to deal
for
with
sure.
struggle.
Yeah,
Don't start thinking now that having some tough times that you're just gonna fold or have this expectation that life is easy. Like,
exactly.
bruh, come on. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
being able to have her say that line, and again with that relationship to where he shot back a little bit, but at the same time he knew that she was right.
yeah,
To
yeah,
again have that relationship where we could just kind of keep it a buck, just keep it 100. Like,
exactly.
look, I know who you are.
Yeah.
So
No, now I'm just like, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I was just like, that you made me think about that and like all of the good friendship moments in that episode. Because again, something that I love Layla and Olivia's friendship, and
yes.
it was the same sort of like, I'm gonna keep it a buck. She was like, so,
Right.
oh,
And
dude,
that's
what's
been one of
going
my
on over
favorite
there?
that's been one of my favorite things about this season, is really leaning into their friendship and really just kind of exploring that, and just kind of
Yeah.
getting into, again, as we were moving them towards Jordan and Layla's wedding and that sisterhood,
Hmm.
but just really like getting into that bond, because unfortunately we can't service every storyline the way we like, or every relationship where we like, but
Right.
being able to find those moments where, like, hey, let's not forget
Definitely.
these two, and again, I know that they had their issues in high school,
Right.
but you can't just forget about that bond that they had before then. And
Definitely.
and again, and friends fall out, and they come back together, and they pick right up where they left off. And
Exactly.
that's the thing. That's back to that, the reality slash aspirational aspect of it all. Like, like, yes, you can fall out with your friend, yes, but we can. And again, yeah, we didn't see every apology on screen, but just know
Yeah.
that they have that type of relationship. They worked it out. They had that type
Yeah.
of relationship where they were able to pull it back around. And I love that. I love those two supporting each other. Again, not to keep going back to Denise. I love the Denise Laura Grace friendship.
Yes. Yes.
That's
That's a
that's
good one
one
too.
of that's one of my favorite things to write, because that's just that dynamic, that I love, that
Yeah.
support that they have for each other.
Definitely. And that it's grown, that it's been a steady growth
Yes,
just
yeah,
through since season
yeah,
three. Since season
yeah, and,
three.
and hopefully it doesn't feel like it just came out of nowhere. Like, again, we just kind of had little moments, and you just kind of see it a little
Definitely.
more here and there.
Yeah.
But
Exactly. Exactly. No, but it's been great. I'll
yeah,
say this again. It's been great talking to you. It's
yeah.
been great having you on.
I love talking about it. So I'm sorry. As you can see, I could just, again,
No, I love this conversation.
that's where the fan side of me comes out, because again, I get to, I get to be a part of it, and I get to witness it in a way, um, in a certain level that you guys don't, because again, I get to see it play out like, it's because again, it's one thing for me to kind of see it in my head and to write it or whatever, but then to see these talented actors take it and bring it to life, and like, oh,
Yeah.
that is sweet, because it wouldn't work if they didn't have that chemistry. It wouldn't work if they couldn't really,
Yeah.
and I kind of love, like, just and then once the final cut, and be able to just kind of sit back and watch it. But yeah, so I can just talk about this stuff, for hours, because again, it comes because I am a fan of it. I
Yeah.
was a fan of the show before I started, and then just became a bigger fan once I got to know the cast
Yeah.
and crew and everyone behind it, everyone, and obviously the other writers, and just wanted to make this show the absolute best, and these characters' journeys, like, just
Yeah.
memorable. Yeah.
Definitely. And you have. And you have. And we got 2 more episodes this season, and then season 7.
Yeah. Season 7 is gonna be interesting. It's gonna
Yeah.
be, just a very interesting reset, and that's kind of what I wanted to do, because we kind of knew, NK just kind of had the force, like, again, just kind of reading the tea leaves and kind of knowing where the cast would kind of be,
Right.
kind of like a version of, okay, that could be a possibility. And so
Yeah.
once we started introducing like Dion's character, it's like, okay, maybe we can kind of get a little taste of what the future could look like. And I'm excited. Again, it's scary. It's almost like you're starting a new show.
It is new challenges.
New challenges. Finding a new audience. But again, we have strong leadership. We have talented writers. We have talented cast, talented crew, and so I think we'll still make something special. I think it's going to be fun.
Definitely. Awesome. Well, thank you again, and thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you.